Yes.
All right, awesome.
All right, guys, welcome to Graphic Novel Geeks. Good to see you again. We're here to interview Javier Hernandez, creator of Days of the Dead and Casa de Diablo, right?
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everyone. So I'm Goblin with Graphic Novel Geeks. Javier Hernandez, our special guest today, creator of El Muerto, the Aztec zombie.
El Muerto,
and
right?
So we're going to be talking to him about his newest graphic novel, Casa del Diablo. For those of you that don't speak Spanish for some weird reason, that means House of the Devil.
For some weird reason.
So Dylan will be with us in just a moment, and Joe is off today because he is in Berkeley at the Cape and Cowl Con. So if you are in the area, be sure to check that out today. It's going to be a great convention put on by our pals at Cape and Cowl Comics in Oakland. All right. So a lead in for those of you that are unfamiliar, didn't catch our prior episode, El Muerto, the Aztec zombie, is Diego de la Muerto. And he died and came back through this I guess in part of this childhood pact that he had with a friend. They vowed that if one died, that they would come back and tell them what happened when they died. And then an Aztec god kind of met up with him and gave him a power to brought him back to life and gave him a power also where he can bring others back to life. But Javier, why don't you kind of tell our viewers a little bit about who El Muerto is in case they don't know or don't remember?
If I didn't create that story, I would have bought it just on your description. I mean, I'm serious. Hey, they say create the stuff that you like to read. So yeah, that's exactly what I did. No, that's a great summary. It was a comic I started back in '98. You know, I did floppies. And I wanted to do something with Aztec mythology, Day of the Dead folklore. I wanted to create a Mexican superhero. And yeah, that's basically the start of it. So by the way, it's going to be back here on the show with you guys. I really enjoyed my last appearance where we did a deep dive into the first book, Days of the Dead. So I'm sure your listeners will be able to check that out here on a link somewhere. But this is the second book, just came out I think a couple of months ago. Time is just weird nowadays, you know. Weeks could be months and years could be days. But anyway, it's the second book in a series. And of course, excuse me, there's a third book that I'll start working on. And the plan is to do 10 graphic novels. Okay,
cool. 10 total. That's a big plan.
I know, it's like the 1,000-book epic. So
nice.
We'll see.
All right, great.
Would it be 10 of the same series or different graphic novels?
Oh no, it'll be the same series. So it's gonna be a 10-part saga of El Muerto.
That's great.
Yeah, thanks. The life and time. I got most planned out. I think the next 6 books. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, that's going to take years. When I get to that 5th or 6th book, then I'll see how those last 3 will play out because things could change a little bit.
Yeah.
Story-wise.
Okay. So what's your process?
Like I have literally the last 5, whatever that is. It should be 10, but if it came out to 9, then it'd be that. But anyway, it's just kind of filling out the last couple of books. Yeah, I want to keep it a little. I want to keep those empty for now because I want to surprise myself as I start telling the story and see how it is towards the end of the saga.
Yeah, right. Because like the characters kind of start taking on the story themselves, and as you create it, they kind of lead the way, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't realize they were going to do that." Right?
Yeah,
exactly. And then I may tie up some loose ends quicker than I think. But yeah, we'll see. But there's definitely I got the 3rd one all written out. And I got the ideas. I got the solid ideas for like the next couple after that. So that's enough for now. You know what I mean? I don't need to have like all 10 in my head.
Yeah, cool. So what's your process for planning out future books and for planning out the next book? Like, do you just kind of have a few notes, and then for the next book, do you do like thumbnails, or what's your process there?
Yeah, good point. So the first graphic novel, Days of the Dead, there was no notebooks. It was
Hmm.
just in my head, and I would just do thumbnails like on 8.5 by 11 paper. I just start drawing it page after page, scribble it out really sloppy,
Uh-huh.
edit. For and then for Casa de Diablo, same thing. I just drew it out. For the third book that I'm going to be doing the thumbnails for, I decided to buy a bunch of blank notebooks.
Uh-huh.
So for the first time, I wrote out the entire story for book 3,
Oh, wow.
almost like a novel, but not that detailed. But Diego
Yeah.
goes here, he meets so and so, they do this. The next day, you know what I mean, just really quick. But I wrote the whole thing out.
Okay.
So it's nice to be able to flip through that book, 20 pages in, like, okay, he's going to be doing this, whatever. So now when I'm going to start doing the thumbnails shortly in a couple of weeks, it's mostly all in my head anyway, but I'll refer back to that notebook, and I'll
Mhm.
probably write the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books. I'm going to write them down in the notebook. I like that process. I ended up liking it. I thought I wouldn't, I thought it'd be too tedious, but I write really quick. It's not meant to be read by anybody but me, right? Sloppy
Uh-huh.
writing. But it is nice to get the thoughts,
Yeah.
structured out that way. Yeah.
Right. Cool. Cool. Great. So I guess your process is growing a little bit too as the story grows, huh?
Yeah, it actually has grown after all these years. Because before I've never written a plot out. It's always in my head, and I just thumbnail it out. It's kind of like what they call the Marvel method,
Uh-huh.
where Stan Lee supposedly give a short summary
Two
of what
paragraphs.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, what's up? And then the artist, Jack Kirby, Ditko, whoever it was, they would go home and draw out a 22 page. They draw out the whole story.
Right.
So they would end up doing subplots themselves because that wasn't covered in the initial conversation. So they would start doing the dramatic parts of the characters and little sidebar stories, whatever. So as a kid, I read about that and I go, oh, that's how you do it. You come up with the story and then you draw it out.
Yeah.
Later on, I read like, oh, these guys actually sit there and write scripts. Oh well, forget that part.
Yeah. Cool.
Plus,
The mighty
I,
Marvel method.
plus I work with myself too, so it's not like I have to.
Yeah.
If I was working with the artist, like I have written 1 or 2 stories for other artists for other projects. So yeah, I would write out a more looser plot summary, because they need
Yeah.
to know what I'm looking at. But for myself, it's like, well, I already have the ideas swimming in my head for months and months and months at a time. Just put them out on paper.
Cool.
That's cool.
All right. Well, I'll lead in to Casa del Diablo with by reading the back of the book. El Muerto returns to face both supernatural and cosmic terrors in his newest adventure. Diego de la Muerte joins forces with a young woman whose infant child has been kidnapped. The trails lead to a derelict and decrepit Spanish hacienda high atop the mountain passageway known as La Rumorosa in northern Mexico. Awaiting them inside the House of Horrors is the diabolic La Donna Maclovia La Dolente. But the dangers only grows more grim with the sudden arrival of one of the dreaded Zizi Mime, an Aztec star demon on the hunt for her prey, El Muerto.
Hey, not bad with the various foreign languages in there. Not bad at all.
Thank you. Thank you. And so this graphic novel picks up right where Days of the Dead ended, where Diego was heading on south after leaving the circus. And he stumbles across a car crash. And in it, so he gets out and he's kind of like, hey, what's going on? And he discovers a woman and he goes to assist her. And then apparently he says that, well, maybe she's not looking too well, touches her, brings her on back from the dead. And then they start, he's like, hey, what's going on? And she tells the story with a gun to his face. And Diego, being him, is like, I can help you out. Your son's been kidnapped. Let's go get him back. And so their adventure goes from there.
And actually, that's not quite the start of the story,
Okay.
because there's Isaac's part, which is like
Oh,
a continuation of the first book, and like one of the things that I was like kind of in there, because it's like it leaves us in such a cliffhanger. It's like, where's the rest of it? It feels like there should have been another part in the end of it was like Isaac still.
right. Well, that's the thing about doing a whole graphic novel series is,
Yeah.
we'll definitely have a lot more on Isaac Silver in the next book for sure, early on. But I'm glad you brought up I forgot about the Isaac part too, because when I originally did the story, it literally started off where he's just driving, right? Like he was just describing.
Mhm.
And then later on, I knew I had to touch on Isaac, because after the first book, Isaac is Diego's best friend, and Diego is missing. They think he's dead, and of course Isaac is dealing with it in a horrible way by drinking. So when I started doing the story, I go, you know what? I gotta put a scene with Isaac in it, and I just thought, you know what? Let me put it right in the beginning,
Yeah.
because I think for a lot of readers of the first book, one of their concerns, which is very nice, that your character lives on like that, is like, hey, what about, what's going on with his friends? It's particularly Isaac, who's having the worst time of it. So yeah, I thought it'd be a nice way to let's get into that emotional, character piece, and then leave that hanging. Like you said, you want more, and then let's get into the action. And I may have mentioned this on your podcast the last time. It's almost like the end of Casino Royale, James Bond movie, where he shoots Mr. White, and then the next film, it's Quantum of Solace. It literally starts off with the car chase where I guess a Bond is getting chased by Mr. White's men, so he throws Mr. White in the car and take off. So I like doing my second book where it literally, like I said, takes place at the end of Days of the Dead, where he's saying bye to the circus family, and then he ends up with the Volkswagen. So yeah, we start off the new story. There he is driving that Volkswagen. He's heading across towards to Tijuana, which is his main destination, because he has a curandero, medicine man, a witch doctor he wants to see. Maybe he can help him. So part of that is, and then that actual shot, I may have, maybe I didn't mention this because we haven't talked about this, but I was thinking when I drew that, I started thinking of The Shining, the opening scene where their car is just driving through the mountainous Denver region, wherever it's at, and the cameras above, and it's just kind of like a drone. And then when I drew that scene, it just reminded me of The Shining. And then I started playing the Shining opening music on it, and it really put the mood for this story. Since this story's like, this is all horror. Like, this is my horror comic.
Yeah.
The first was the origin story, supernatural, and then action at the circus. But yeah, I wanted to do a horror story, which hence I bring in this character. She's my stand-in for the Mexican La Llorona, the Mexican myth of the Llorona, which I'm sure a lot of your viewers probably heard of, the movies, whatever. It's this ancient legend in Mexico. Is this crying woman, the wailing woman is what the translation. She's searching the countryside for her children that she herself murdered. Depending on the story, right? I forgot the exact. There's different versions, but I think she killed him in a fit of anger at her husband or something. And then she regrets that she killed him, so she wanders. Even when she dies, she's wandering the countryside looking for mis niños, my children. So it's a very creepy story that as a kid, I knew that story. Our parents moms would tell you that story to scare you, like, hey, don't stay out late at night because the Llorona's out there. So it's a great way to get your butt back home before 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I heard that story when I was about 16 or so. Where I grew up in Fremont, there's this place called Niles Canyon, and there's like a windy canyon. And when I was a kid in the early 80s, there was a story that there was some kind of a high school prom, and that this girl got hit by a car. Like on side of Niles Canyon. And so they said that that people would see her ghost. And so we were my friend and I were in Niles Canyon, and I told him about that story. And then he's like, oh, well, the story that I've heard was about, and he told me about La Llorona. But he told me that that was the story that he heard about Niles Canyon. And there's like this little stream, and he's like, oh, she's wondering the stream and stuff. And I think he probably changed it just a little just to scare me a little. So I thought it was a story about Niles Canyon. It wasn't until a bit later that I found out that, this is like a Mexican folklore tale that everybody knows. So yeah, that creeped me out when I was a teenager.
But they're always, that's the basis. It's always like a wandering spirit.
Yeah.
And it depends on the culture or whatever. Like, well, why are they wandering? So, by the way, the other thing is this incident here, this opening shot of El Muerto where he's driving, through Baja California, and he looks down and sees the car. So believe it or not, and I asked my brother a few years ago when I started working on this, hey, Albert, remember this scene? This really happened. We were driving down in Mexico. We were little kids. We had one sister at the time, and then we had another one born. But it was me, my brother, and my sister in the back of the station wagon, and mom and dad are driving, and we're going down somewhere in Baja, and we're driving on a winding road off like the beach, and me and Albert looked down towards the beach, and we saw a car was turned upside down. Yeah. Turned upside down, must have rolled off the edge there. And there was a woman on top of the car. Except in my comics, she's standing up, waving somebody with her jacket. In real life that we saw, she was kneeling on top of the car on the underside of it, right? And she was wearing, get this, I mean, it sounds very Hollywood. She was wearing white clothes, so you could see the blood streaking down her body, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
And she was just like raising her arms, like, trying to call for help. But we were in the back of the station wagon when you could do that. You can't put kids in the back of the station wagon now. And we just drove by really quick. I don't know if we yelled at my dad or something, but what, we didn't end up stopping. But my brother remembers it because I always think I made it up, overactive imagination. But just a couple of years ago, he was like, yeah, no, I remember. And he described it just like I told you guys. Yeah, she was down there and she was looking up. So that always stuck with me. So like a good writer, you have all these hundreds of thousands of memories in your filing cabinet in your head, like, okay, that's a good scene. Somehow I got to use it one day. And when I started thinking of the storyline, I go, yeah, he finds this woman on this upturned car down the mountain slope. So
nice. So a little bit of autobiography then in this story. Inspired by real life. Nice.
Always putting little bits like that wherever you can as a writer.
Cool.
Oh, so I had a question about earlier talking about the road, driving on the road, and then the music from The Shining. Is there a particular kind of music you hear? Because if you were to make it like a movie or a film, what music would you put to it?
Oh, like what type of music? That Shining opening music was perfect because it's the exact scene. In general, though, I always play music when I'm drawing, even when I'm writing. But I love soundtracks. Go-to soundtracks, Danny Elfman, Ennio Morricone, and then different movies. Dracula, Coppola's Dracula. A lot of them are good, like horror. They're moody. They're very atmospheric. They're dark, gothic. So yeah, I always have music playing, like always. And I don't necessarily try to match the music to the scene. Just in general, anything, anything from Carpenter, from Halloween or Prince of Darkness.
Oh God, yeah.
The Fog. Yeah, anything that's just, moody, gothic, dark storytelling. So yeah, that's what I do. And a lot of music, the Smiths, the Cure, and things like that, 80s bands.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Right
on. Sounds like a good playlist.
Yeah. I should actually do it on Spotify. I know a lot of creators do that. Do a playlist for each book.
Oh, cool. I saw that with Christopher Cantwell's Blue Flame. He had somebody do some music for that, and they, I guess, were original score. Kind of short, didn't fit the comic exactly, but I hadn't really seen like a music to go along with comic before that, really. There's like this one other hip hop comic that I had just picked up before that, and I was like, oh, this is a good idea. More people should put music soundtracks to their comics.
Yeah, I would think a lot of us are listening to it as they're writing or drawing. So yeah.
So you
Valid,
have
yeah.
the Batman's death metal had a death metal soundtrack that Scott Snyder and his artist put together for that
Yeah.
whole thing.
Oh
That's
wow.
right.
Limited release. And then there was another one that's like Todd McFarlane's kind of been known for doing that, like over the course of Spawn's history too.
Okay, cool.
I'd be curious on the Spawn soundtracks. I haven't read much Spawn, but I'm just curious what he's using for fuel.
Metal, if I remember correctly. It's like it's been a while.
Yeah, you know what? One thing too, and I'm fortunate. You know, I think we talked about in the last episode. They made a film out of my comic, so there was a soundtrack made for it. So I actually get to listen to El Muerto movie soundtrack music as I'm working on the new El Muerto comic.
Perfect.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Nice.
Perfect.
Nice. Great. So, well, so you mentioned about how you added in the scene for Isaac to bring in some of the character interaction. That was one of the things that I really liked about the first graphic novel was just the human interaction there, and there was a lot of emotional characters. A lot of emotion in the characters that really drove the story, like Diego with his parents and Isaac and Diego's relationship, and the mystery of Diego's father. And so it brings me to I don't know, Dylan and I had this great conversation last night. You recall, Dylan? I think you started out, you said, so Keith, what do you think of the new graphic novel, Casa del Diablo? And I said, well, I liked it. I thought that was really good. And Dylan, what was your response there? Why don't we carry it on out for our viewers here?
I actually ended up writing out 4 pages of notes because I actually reread it again last night just to go through it and refresh my memory. So I thought it was good. There's before I forget, also condolences on your father, by the way, Javier.
Thank you.
Hear about that.
Yeah. Sorry
During the
to hear
production
that.
book last year. Yeah, thanks.
But where's my notes here?
While he's looking really quick, so
Yeah.
the emotional content. I mean, that's something that I strive for. I want these characters to be, crackling with their personality, their emotion, because I love drawing all the monster stuff, the demons, and I want to get to that. I want to get to the crazy fight scenes and everything. But to me, it's so important that every scene in between, you don't want to go from an exciting fight scene to this boring monologue and people talking. Because there's a lot of talking in my comics. I mean, they're people like you guys were just talking last night. We're talking with friends over coffee. I mean, we are humans. We talk a lot.
Yeah.
My characters talk a lot. What makes it important for me as a writer, trying to keep you folks interested as readers, how do I make it interesting? So, and that's every writer's dilemma or priority, whatever. So I like high emotional content. The characters are kind of almost like a live wire. So yeah, I'm glad that comes across in the reading and in the characters. Thanks.
Yeah. And what I said to Dylan, I'm not sure if he's ready yet, but what I said to Dylan is I said, well, I felt that this one was different than the first graphic novel. This one was more action-based, fast-paced, which I enjoy in a comic. So I liked it a lot, but it's very different from the first one, I thought, because the first one is really more emotion, character driven, I felt like. And this one is much more action, fast-paced. So a little different, but they're both great.
I put it in my notes here from that I wrote last night. I was like, I think it's definitely a more direct story than volume 1, because volume 1 I think also was written in littler chapters too, because it's there's a couple of different sort of stories that were told in that one.
Right.
And, I was actually wondering, since it seems like you're pursuing this to more finish off the story now than originally, it was do you think that was a result of your father being sick, halfway through it, and kind of just not wanting to focus on the family issues in the book itself, or then you just kind of pushed it out to like be more of an action story, or was it just a different path, like that you want to sort of pursue like a longer, more complete tale as each one goes along?
You know what? You kind of alluded to it earlier. It's so the first book, I think it's always the case with anything. It's the origin story. So there's a lot to cover in the first one I had to do. Like I have to introduce all the characters to the readers.
Yeah.
And then I have to introduce his origin story. And then at the end of the origin story, like it's half the book. And then, okay, what's the first adventure? He ends up in Mexico at the Circus Freak Show. So yeah, it's like you may have said it's stop and go. So like it's almost two. That first book's almost two stories: the origin story, which involves Diego's young background, his childhood, and everything, and then the first adventure. So yeah, it's kind of like it stops and goes. Like the first part stops and then it starts again. This one, yeah, from day one, once we get out of Isaac's little story, it's Diego in Mexico. He finds this woman. They got to go to this haunted house, this demon. Yeah, this one was definitely originally intended as a horror story, but also it's just naturally, organically, it just has to run from point A to point Z.
Yeah.
Which I did miss at the end when I finished it. I go, well, okay, I didn't delve back into his friends, like, because there's the friends back in Whittier and there's Diego out on the road. But I figure, okay, I got Isaac in the beginning, so that gives us that the home friend life. The next book is definitely going to be, it's going to be probably more intercut scenes with the action where he's in Tijuana with this witch doctor. It's going to be cut more with a couple of scenes back home. But yeah, I think this one I wanted to just really like blaze through and tell a fast, action-paced horror story by not breaking it up with intercut scenes back home. Because you might lose some of the tension, I think, of that escalating tension in the House of Horrors, and then the Star Demon shows up. So yeah, it was kind of intentional, and the story kind of dictated, I think.
Yeah, I think that you did a good job. All right, so here's the CC Mima, the Star Demon shows up. It looks like this great like Cthulhuian horror. As something out of H.P. Lovecraft and stuff.
Absolutely.
See that's coming out from outer space, and I thought that this was really dug this as a villain or whatever it was, right? And playing throughout the story, interacting with the other villains that you've got, including like I really liked the haunted conquistador. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was just great. That was great.
If you're gonna be in a satanic Spanish hacienda, yeah, you gotta have a haunted conquistador.
Yeah. So that was I was like, yeah, there we go, man. This looks so great with that suit of armor just coming to life. I was like, yeah, that there needs to be more villains like that in comic books. I think just like a Scooby-Doo haunted knight armor.
Exactly. This is like Scooby-Doo adventure, but there's no goofy neighbor at the end in the costume. Like, no, these are real demons and monsters.
Yeah.
This is the page that I actually, if it won't blur,
it's blurred out.
I like the best, which was like your very Jim Starlin moment of the
oh yeah, the cosmic stuff. That was another thing I knew with the Star Demon. So the Star Demon, the Sisimine, it's an actual Aztec deity from the mythology, and the way they're portrayed, from what I've seen, they're very different. They're skeletal women. So I just completely reimagined it. It's like, no, I want to make it. When I think of the word Star Demon, yeah, I'm thinking of Lovecraft and I'm thinking of tentacle things. So I just made it a simple, octopus type tentacled monster from the cosmos.
Yeah,
I like that. That's cool.
Since it's like keeps trying to blur it out, the page that I like the best is the one.
Oh, there we go.
Him standing on the Starfield with his head splitting into like 3 sort of segments of like dark and light, and then him in the middle was like I said, it was a very Starlin sort of Adam Warlock-y sort of moment, since we were talking about Adam Warlock a lot last night.
Oh yeah.
So it made me think about it a lot. Like
no, like on the back of the book where he encounters supernatural horrors and cosmic horrors. Like I love those two different genres, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yes, so great. It's like I don't buy art that often, but I would buy that page because it's like I kind of like that a lot because it's like actually perfectly composed with negative space and where it makes the cosmic background actually like not over so because the cosmic part is just like
It's
an
in the
element
little
center.
plumes of smoke. Yeah.
Puddly, very puddly, but I like it too.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you're right. I didn't want to make the whole background cosmic. So I go, okay, I'll put tendrils of smoke, and in there I put the little pieces of the cosmos in there. So thanks. In fact, that page, I have a earlier page of that in my pile, where I was drawing. It looks the same, but it wasn't coming out right. I think it was, I don't know if Diego's pose, or I think the smoke clouds. But I quit. I inked it about half, and I stopped and go, let me redraw it because it wasn't feeling right, and I had to get it just balanced right. So thanks, glad you appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, the way I'm thinking is like the cosmic is trying to seep into this mind space and all that, which is why you have the head splitting apart and all that. It's like it's my head canon for it at least.
Yeah, and that's from Aztec sculpture. I've seen them like they'll draw the sculptures like that. The human face is in the middle, and then it splits, and then it splits again, and one of them is a skull. So yeah, I just saw that. It's like, well, I'm doing a book, a lot of it based on Aztec mythology. I'm definitely going to look at Aztec art and
Nice.
bring it into my comic.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's
And
great. Yeah.
Little, hold on for a second. Cut it out. Sorry about that. Cats. The fight with the wailing woman. My Spanish is terrible when I'm like this early in the morning. Actually, she was actually a pretty strong villain for like compared to like the drug dealers he took out in the first one at the circus and all that. It was actually a fight where it's like I wasn't sure what was going to happen with the end of that one.
So that's good. Well, again, yeah, this is a supernatural story. Yeah, the first book, yeah, he's fighting these horrible drug dealers, but yeah, they're just humans and no superpowers. This time, yeah, he's fighting several. Yeah, I forgot about the Conquistador. He's fighting like 3 supernatural entities, like bam, one after another, bam, bam, bam. So again, like I told you, I wanted to get to a good fight scene. You know, I just before we got on the call here, I was thinking like, okay, in one of my books, I have to do the they live. I gotta outdo the they live fight scene. That's considered the greatest, or at least the longest at the time, maybe still longest fight.
8.5 minutes.
So I gotta think. I gotta do. I don't know which book it's gonna be. There's got to be a massive El Muerto fight scene that goes on and on and on. Where it's got to work out. You know, can't drag on, but it's got to be. So anyway, I gotta again. John Carpenter's always not far from my my goalposts to try to reach.
Nice. Yeah, that would be great to see. There definitely, like I said, a lot of action, good fight scenes with just like, really horror based. And, it's a lot of fun to read.
Yeah. Well, it was easy missiles like there. It was like I don't know that when he was fighting too, it was like I wasn't sure if he was gonna like step up and then like that ZZ Mitchell showed up and it was like I don't know if he's gonna win. Lovecraft was like, well, let me throw my dick in the ring. And it's like, let's just like throw tentacles at this thing and like, what the heck?
Yeah.
It was out of nowhere.
Always keep the hero on the ropes.
I wanted to ask about Dolores, the female character that we kind of follow through this one.
Dolores Tremosa, yes.
Because she's she reads like a pretty complete character, like through the thing, because she has her own agency. She's sort of fully formed from like page 1, which like, is it just because you've had her in your head for a while as a character before using her in this, or is it she actually based on someone you know? That's like,
well, you know what? No, I'm glad you brought her up. She's she's the co-star of the book. Dolores Tremosa. So yeah, I knew like I wanted Diego to find a woman who needs help. The baby's been kidnapped. But I wanted to make this woman, so I gave her a military background for those who haven't read it yet, but because I'm trying to figure out like, she's got to have some type of background, because you can tell right from the beginning, pulling out the gun, she's questioning him, she doesn't trust them. She's saying we got to get going on this stuff. So you should get a sense like, okay, she has some type of background in enforcement or military. So I wanted to make her a very strong character. I was, Ellen Ripley, Sarah Connor, those great movie heroes from way back then. I wanted to make her a strong character. She is a mother. She's a mother. So what the heck would a mother do for a child? Anything, right? Her child's been kidnapped. She don't care if it's some spook story of a monster. She needs to go find that child. Yeah, we're looking at the flashbacks there. So yeah, she's really get up and go. And yeah, the whole background story, I don't know. I just thought of, she's in the military, but I wanted to give her like a weird dichotomy where she was this young child and the dad tried to smother her with girly stuff and she kind of rebelled against it. A little bit of like a Love and Rockets, like a Maggie or something, or Opie, kind of very punk in her early years. And then because she had a big military service in her family, she decided to join the military to try to make some change, maybe naive, right, in the US outside the country, right? But I needed her to have a military background just to, explain why she's so good at guns and fearless. And I thought, okay, we're gonna fell in love with an Iraqi resistance guy, and that didn't work out and such. So give her a little tragedy in her life. But the character, yeah, she had to be a ferocious tiger of a mom because her child's missing, right? Her infant child. So yeah, she's not messing around. And her name, for the longest time that I'm drawing the book, I had no name for her. I just called her the woman or whatever. Because I want, sometimes it's like overthink. I want a perfect name. And then I thought of the lead singer from the Cranberries, Dolores Riordan, because I gave her that certain look where she got the real short hair. And I've always loved her, and I read about her, and she passed away, unfortunately. But she was a tough rocker woman, right? Very beautiful looking, but she was like a tough rock star. So I think that kind of helped influence the character. And then also, previously my father passed away last year. My nephew, my oldest nephew, he was killed in gun violence, some years before. And I always thought about my sister, Imelda, the way she just, had to care for him afterwards in the trial and everything, how tough she was. So I think I had to latch on to something like, okay, I was thinking of just, again, a very strong, tough, fighting mother for the son. So in this case, she has a chance to save the son from this monster, from this entity. So yeah, some of it comes from real life, some of it just like what you've seen before in films and how you want the character portrayed.
Yeah, I thought she did a great job. She seemed very, very believable, very real. It all felt very organic.
Thank you.
Yeah, like you said, it definitely didn't leave me wondering what was going on. It definitely made me understand why she was doing what she did. Felt she had that experience, very driven. Like you just said, you did a great job of putting out a believable character there.
Thanks. Usually it's good. There's going to be looking at the next couple of books. Yeah, there's going to be a female co-star in every book. There she is. Yeah, Dolores. In the first book, it was the first book. The female character was the little girl. Without the eyes. Yeah. God, I forgot her name right now. Catalina. Right. In this one, it's this mother. In the next one, there'll be a different character, and there'll be a different type of relationship with her. So we'll see. We'll see that when it comes out.
I gotta say, this is my favorite panel of the whole book. I think it just like that expression on her face. What I love most is just this really clean line from her forehead going down her nose and then onto her top lip and then the curve of her mouth. It's just this perfect. I mean, it looks like just this perfect one line defining her face. And, she has so much like anger and anguish and just kind of, punk rock attitude right there.
Yeah.
And I love that panel.
It's a shotgun toting mama, She's somebody's mother. She's when they tell the little boy when he's older, your mama wears army boots. Yeah, she does. She knows how to use a shotgun.
Cool.
And then contrast that with the little old lady there, right? Who turns out to be our our monstrous Llorona character, La Doña Macaria. Is it Maclavia? Maclovia. Maclovia, my bad. Maclovia. Yeah. Doña Maclovia. And yeah, I thought it'd be, yeah, I'll make it like a sweet little old woman.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Supposedly, yeah.
Sweet.
Cool.
From an artist standpoint, I really like whenever he resurrects, like after he gets killed, and the way you draw it, it's really interesting. Like when his head got knocked off and they put it back.
Yeah. I needed, because it's a black and white book, I needed some effect to work. So every time he's resurrecting himself or resurrecting a dead person, you see the skeleton, right? Like an X-ray.
Yeah, like it's kind of like electric. I like that.
Yeah,
It's very interesting way to
Yeah.
show it. Yeah.
Yeah. It had to be something that would stand out.
Yeah, very original, I think. So
Thanks.
I'm going to bring up an easy one that I really liked about this book, and that's the chapter break title pages, which were really well done. This one, which I actually have them here. So it's like a whisper of love, a whisper of death for chapter 1, which I feel like that's a song lyric, but I can't place it if it is.
Oh, I don't know if it might, you know what it's from. It's from here's me and my James Bond again. The original Casino Royale novel. There's a chapter there called a whisper of love, a whisper of hate, something like that. And I always like that wording. So I figure, well, I'm talking about love and death in this book. So whisper of love, a whisper of death. And I like doing illustrations for each chapter intro as well.
Yeah, there's the non-page one, which is not a chapter break, but it's the same thing, which was Los Muertes También Lloran, which is the dead also cry in English, if I remember correctly. But
yes,
growing up in San Diego, so Tijuana is kind of near and dear to my heart. So it's like I'm kind of waiting to see what you do with that town. Then there's the Mountains of Madness, which cuts in with the cosmic horror element of that with the Mountain of Madness. Lovecraft. Yeah, nice and fitting. And then Lullaby, which I actually have a note here, but you kind of answered, because it's like this does feel like it was a song reference, because it's I was thinking about the Cure song, like of the same name, which fits with the story in a lot of ways lyrically.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a nod to that, but really I came up with the chapter heading after I drew that third part. And because the lullaby comes into play, the Mexican lullaby that
at the end
Dolores sings to her son, and it's the one Diego remembers hearing as a child, or he thinks he heard it because he's never met his mother. She passed away during birth. And that's a very famous, again, growing up as a kid, I remember that lullaby. My mom would sing it, or either to us, or she'd sing it just to sing it. And that's a beautiful song. And I think I have the lyrics in there somewhere.
Yeah, right here on the last page. The last 2 pages was the as he's laying down and he's remembering the song and falls asleep.
Yeah. The song's just coming to him, and I just thought, what are you gonna call this chapter but lullaby, right? It's referenced enough, but a little bit of the Cure in there too.
Nice, and of course, it's great Aztec cosmic horror.
Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah.
I like that one, for sure.
Yeah, it's Tezcatlipoca's pyramid.
Yeah. I also really liked towards the beginning, there was this great like shadow play juxtaposition that you had. Where is that page? As they were showing the origin story, I think, of the old lady.
She's done in white.
Yeah.
That's the second origin story of that book, right? Besides Dolores.
All right. So there's this great here's the shadow coming in, and it overshadows her, right, as it begins to take possession. And then on the next page, just there, you got the demon shadow coming on into her as it fully possesses her. So it's really cool having those shadows just like play out what was going on and real good use of like black and
Yeah,
white
thank
and
you.
everything. I really
Oh,
really
shadows.
enjoyed those.
Yeah.
Shadows are such a great tool as
This
a
is also a
story.
great one for the negative space aspect again, which you
Oh,
played a lot
thanks.
more with.
Yeah.
Was there
I've
something?
gotten a lot more conscious of like silhouettes and negative space over the years. Just happen to have it here with me. Going to Guy Devilman.
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
All his work though, but Devilman, I mean, I'm sure I won't find one right now when I need to find one. But he does so much with black
Wow,
and white
nice.
silhouette, and he does a lot of negative space images. Anyway, so yeah, he's been a big influence on me the last 10, 20 years.
Okay. Since it's
Yeah.
51 after, and I'm gonna bring this part up now because honestly, me gonna just try to keep everything straight in my head for that, and like
Sure.
kind of see if like where we are with this. It's like all of our unresolved plot points that we keep like building up on, like in this book, which I love, but it's like
Yeah,
we
which
still
one?
have I think there's only one unresolved plot point from the first book, which we talked about last time you were on, which was the mysterious man at the funeral, which I
The
think is
mystery
his
man.
dad. And I'm actually kind of wondering what if that is what he's thinking and what's happening with Diego, or there's a lot in there, but you can not answer these if you want. It's just the stuff that I'm kind of like.
Oh no, please ask. I always tell people you can ask anything, and I'll let you know if I could tell you now, or we have to wait for this to come out in the next book or whatever.
Okay. Why hasn't Diego called his found family to let him know that he's alive? Well, not technically alive, but something. I feel like he's heading towards like Tijuana also to kind of get back to them, but it's like, and it might be that, but it's like it just seems so out of character for who he is that he wouldn't call them. I mean,
Maybe his look is scary.
He's missing a year. He's got weird face tattoos now. He kind of looks like he's been listening to way too much ICP if he doesn't have the makeup on, but it's like, I mean, it seems so out of character for like who he is as a person that it's like, it honestly was like kind of bugging me at the like into the second book.
That shows you care though. I mean, I've said this. I'm sure I've said this in interviews. He's definitely going to work his way back home. But he wants to come back home. He wants to try to come back home normal, alive again. That does create a lot of angst, right? And not just in the reader, but in the character. Like, oh, I miss my friends and family. It's like, well, just go home. But then you wouldn't have that angst. But his plan is he wants to go home face to face instead of just spooking him with a phone call or a Zoom call, I guess.
A Zoom call.
Yeah.
Well,
back in '98 when I did the story the first time, there was no such thing as Zoom, but gotta incorporate that now. But yeah, all I can tell you is his plan is to get back home, but he wants to try to go back home whole and complete and normal, as much as it kills the reader and the character and the other characters to not have them together, right?
Well, we've known since book one that him and Isaac have had that death contract too. So it's like, and he knows that that's like basically his brother and all, but like blood.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. It's just like, it seems like that would be the person he would know the best. So he knows this must be killing him. He would have.
Well, he doesn't know how it's killing him though. He doesn't know about the drinking.
Yeah. Although it's like I put in my notes here. It's like I'll give him some leeway as he's probably still processing that he lost a year of his life and is now the toy of gods and devils, which introduced in this one, which we didn't mention.
Pile that on top of all his problems, yeah.
So I get that it's probably weighing down on him, but it's like,
well, yeah, he is kind of like at the same time concerned with his friends, but like, what about me, man? I got all this crap piling down on me, and gods and devils, and where's God in all this? Yeah, he's definitely got stuff weighing on.
Yeah.
And then the last one, the new Diego baby thing gestating inside of a cosmic horror, which is like, I have no idea what that means, but it is a great cliffhanger.
Yes, it is, and it's a great cliffhanger. Again, yeah, I think you mentioned like the plot threads. Like, yeah, we still got the mystery man from the first book. Everybody wants to know about his dad. So my thing as a storyteller is I'm doing book by book. Yeah, I definitely have to resolve some of these. Some of them get resolved. I won't tell you which ones. Two of them get resolved together. So that's all I could say. But I don't want to talk too much about what's coming up as far as resolutions and stuff.
Yeah, I
But
don't
yeah,
want to totally spoiled, but it's like, but yeah, I didn't think, I thought it was a 3-act book. So I was thinking there's way too much going on for like a 3rd act.
oh yeah, no. I mentioned earlier, yeah, it's at least a 10-book series. But a lot of stuff's gonna start hitting the fan in book 4 and 5, as far as like answering people. So
Cool. So what's the expected timeline for, well, just the next one, book 3? When
Yeah,
can we
book 3,
expect that to come out?
yeah, well, we're already in what, September.
Yeah,
Got some other
August.
stuff that started. So
August.
I'll be honest, I'm gonna anticipate 2024 is gonna be working on it.
Mhm.
It'd be ideally to squeeze it out before the end of 2024.
Yeah, like
Okay.
1 book a year.
Definitely want to get these cranked out quicker now. I'm not getting younger every year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
None of us
and-
are.
Yeah, and 10 books is it's a pretty damn big order, but it's just I have enough stories to get me through at least the next 4 or 5 books. So
Well, just taking
Cool.
the God, I can never remind myself of your handy pronunciation guide here in the beginning. The
Mictlan.
Mexicana, or the for that and all that. It's like the Aztec and Mayan sort of gods and all that, as well as like
Oh
the
yeah, the
folklore and all that. You have enough for like 10 books in there, just like dealing with them.
exactly.
A lot of them.
Yeah, more gods will show up in the series. Yeah, you alluded to earlier the devil too. So like, yeah, on top of the Aztec gods, and then I thought he'd cross paths with old Satan himself. Throw that in the mix.
Who was
Like-
actually, that was just a little, the Wailing Woman in disguise anyway, because it's like, which were sense to that, because there's like the weird Dracula and his wife sort of painting up on the wall. There's the goat sort of imagery from that the Satanic Church always uses and all that, like on the
Oh
dome.
yeah, all those lovely paintings in the house. Yeah,
lovely paintings.
yeah, devils.
Yeah, I have a lot of that same art up in my apartment. All right, let's not
Yeah,
get
yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm evil. It just means that I'm like,
Like the
That
art.
you like art.
I mean,
darkness.
I drew it. It's in my
Mhm.
book. I needed it to use it as well. Yeah.
I like that page as well. I mean, you can never go wrong with a nice skull candle.
Yeah.
Nothing
It
wrong
was
with
just
just having
fun.
skulls all over your house.
Yeah. I wanted a couple of scenes where he's walking through the house because I'm making a big deal of this Casa de Diablo, House of the Devil. Well, let's see it. Let's see how horrific it could be. And it's again, if you're in Mexico, you're a Mexican superhero, you're a Mexican character, what could be haunting and scary? Like, yeah, the old Spanish Empire, the old conquistadors. So, playing with that as well.
Cool. Yeah, it's a great job. I enjoyed it.
I was just thinking, it's like that, or you just go completely against type and have like pictures of the Backstreet Boys and
Yeah,
you playing in the background. It's like, just like, what's
that's my
truly
personal
evil?
health. Yeah.
I have a very twisted sense of humor, so it's like anything that does weird sort of stuff like that is like always great. Like that weird twist of like, that's just wrong.
That's why you're such a great El Muerto reader. You get this.
It's the reason why Ambush Bug is still one of my favorite like comic book characters of all time, because
Oh
that's
yeah.
just Keith Giffen, like, having a twist at the entire comic book industry. Like
Yeah.
every page is just like another in joke. If you look at it, it's like,
It's
oh,
really
good
off the
lord.
wall. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of, like-
does some good stuff.
Speaking of dark themes, so like in the book, like I'm drawing this book, I'm doing the scenes with the baby and the La Doña about to kill him all each. It's like, man, how dark am I getting too dark? Because when I draw it, it's like, okay, that's the story. Then I pull back and I go, well, I gotta tell the story. I have to tell the story. The story's got to be what it is. So yeah. And sometimes it's, there's a scene where spoiler alert, where Conquistador cuts Diego's head off. when I drew it, I thought it was funny. Yeah, it's macabre and horrible. It's like, yeah, but he can resurrect. So, but I mean, it's a terrible thing to go through. But yeah, I do have this. I know Tim Burton talks a lot about it. It's like, hey, I got a dark sense of humor. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, be true to yourself and make it as dark as it needs to be to tell your story, because there is a fan base and market out there. People like me really like that.
Yeah.
I think Dylan enjoys that as well. So
I was gonna say,
you
it's
know,
like, no matter
you
how
got to
dark you
market,
think it
be you.
gets, as a Warhammer 40K fan, the darkest you get, they're just be like, hold my beer, I got you beat.
Oh, my beer. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, it's what is that? It's what they refer to as the grimdark scene and all that. It was just like, there's no hope. It's like, there's never anything. It's like, oh my God.
Well, like
It's
in the
like-
first book, when he's up in the circus freak show, chained up, and he's getting shot at by the audience. He's getting shot at multiple
Yeah,
times, blown
That's
up
a
and
great
blown apart.
scene.
pretty
that's horrible.
hardcore.
But that's humanity, right? You know, there would be a group of people that, you know, if they're all drunk and high and just violent, hey, this guy can just self-resurrect. Let's just play with him all day. So
Well, we
you
make
got to.
movies about it all the time. It's like most dangerous game, surviving the game, which is just a remake of that. It's like, you know, it's like the like, what's the most dangerous game, man? So we're just gonna hunt somebody that we like grabbed off the street that no one's gonna miss and like kill them for sport. It's like, that's just
Right. Exactly.
ugh.
I mean, I don't want to go like Tim Vigil Faust in this book, but definitely going to bend over to some pretty dark stuff, and then hopefully it's counterbalanced by, you know, the nice things in it, the beautiful.
Yeah.
art-
Counterbalanced by Diego as a character in a lot of ways, because Diego's like a very positive individual, I'd say.
Yeah, he's not dark. Yeah, he's not the dark one in all this. You're right. What happened to him is, but he himself, he's our shining beacon, hopefully, in all the craziness, dark. And then, you know, that's why I give him a supporting cast of other young people, because, well, when they're not all depressed about him, they're a pretty lively bunch themselves, you know.
Well, that was a nice thing that you did also, is because the intro with Isaac and all that, you do the exposition dump without doing a total exposition dump, because he's just saying, like, you know, what's going on with Diego's ex-girlfriend. She got married to.
She's getting married. She's engaged.
And then like a couple of the other friends like that lately mentioned, there's like some that weren't, but you know, I'm assuming that there's a Jim Shooter had a great rule for when you want to do stuff like that. There's 7-7-7 rule. 7 pages of drama, 7 pages of character building, 7 pages of action.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was alluding to that
Every
earlier.
month. That was like how he sold Marvel comics back in the day and all that, which is like, you go back and look at like Marvel 2 ones with like 111 with like Quasar and all that. It's like, that's what it is. It's 7-7-7.
Huh. Okay.
Interesting.
I didn't know
I
that.
heard the
Interesting.
777 before. This
Yeah, I
Well,
like
Richard
that.
had a lot of weird rules. It's like he did that with Valiant as well, and I think he did it in
Right,
his
well,
Legion of
cool.
Superheroes
Say-
as well. Because he wrote Legion of Superheroes for like years. At 14.
Yeah, at a very young age. I may have mentioned this on our last episode. Is for me like the original Spider-Man comics or like the Speed Racer cartoon show. Like if they did those without the action, without like Speed Racer, if it wasn't about the car chases and the races, to me like the family's interesting. Like I could probably watch in a couple episodes where it's just the family at the house arguing, having breakfast, whatever. Or same with Spider-Man. You know, it's the Stanley Ditko stuff. It was just Peter Parker and Aunt May and, you know, Betty Brant, you know, the early stirrings of girlfriend, boyfriend with them, and Jonah Jameson. Like that stuff is so interesting to me. I mean, obviously we like the superhero part, the villains and the action, and we need that. But like those things can almost survive, I think, for a bit, just as dramas, right? Just as relationship dramas with the fun stuff, the crazy stuff. So in my books, I want to do it where like, yeah, Diego and his friends, they could almost have a whole life of stories just of them without any supernatural stuff. But I want to do the superhero stuff. So I do my rule's like 50-50, right? 50 human drama, whatever, and 50 action, demons, gods, and all that stuff.
I was at the library recently. I reread the Stan Lee Steve Ditko Spider-Man stuff. I didn't realize how much more I like the John Romita stuff when he took over.
Really interesting.
Well, I don't like the sort of Steve Ditko's like and Ryan worship and all that, where it's like there's certain people that are better than other people, and it's like everyone else's job to like, kind of do it. He did that with the Question even more so than he was with Spider-Man, because Spider-Man was kind of a not nice guy in the early days and all that. For the most part, if you go back and reread them compared to the stuff, Romita kind of took it more in that sort of romance, sort of teen sort of thing, and like he lightened up and like he started hanging out with Left-Wind Flash and him started becoming more friends and all that. It was like it's definitely the Spider-Man cast like widened by like a lot.
Yeah, it definitely became a very nice, pretty looking soap opera with the superhero stuff, with the Ditko stuff. And I'm a huge Ditko fanatic, but yeah, I don't know how much of that the so-called objectivist stuff is evident through Spider-Man. But Peter was, I mean, even from the first appearance of Peter Parker, where he's saying that he loves Aunt May and Uncle Ben and the rest of the world can go hang.
Yeah.
Like, even young Peter, like, I mean, you have to realize this kid was bullied left and right his whole life. And it speaks a lot to, the idea of bullying kids. So he was very bitter. He hated everybody but his loving aunt and uncle.
I was bullied like most of my like youth and all that. It's like I had a school that was like very much like beat the heck out of the nerd kid, like because we're going to state and so no one's going to trouble us. But it's like you don't let it like eat up at you. It's like, which is like why I think that worked for Peter, was like when they changed it around and all that.
Which makes the death of Uncle Ben even worse. Like, okay, you care about these two people more than anything in the world. And the one chance you could have saved them, you didn't, because you're being an arrogant, little bird. So that which makes that origin story so perfect. It's so great. Like, because Batman is not responsible for his mom and dad getting shot in the alleyway. He's not. I don't care if people say, well, he wanted to cut across. I mean, but Peter, this guy ran right by you. They told you to stop him. He's a criminal. And you didn't because you were too cocky.
Over $5 like that he paid you, like, or underpaid you or whatever. Yeah.
Say, guys, this is a great conversation, but I think you've just started a different episode.
Yes, we did.
This episode, which is about Casa de Diablo, is I think our time is just about wrapping up. But man, we should pick up where we're leaving off here and bring that up sometime. I don't know if it's for our next episode in 2 weeks or some other time, but
I'm
great discussion.
Talking, so yeah.
Actually,
if you want to review comic books,
the one last question that everyone's probably hanging in their mind: when is Man Swamp going to actually make a guest appearance in this book?
Man Swamp.
He did in this issue as a poster.
Yeah.
Of all the things I have planned, I don't see an entry point for Man Swamp, but we never know.
All right, cool. So last thing, of course, everybody wants to know, where can they pick up a copy of your latest graphic novel?
Yes, there's two options. One, I'll just say it's on Amazon. If you go to Amazon, look up Javier Hernandez, Muerto, Casa de Diablo. I know people got the free shipping and get it in 2 days or something. And it's cheaper because they don't charge shipping. Or they can buy it on my website, which hopefully you can put a link up there. I have to charge shipping, so yeah, I'll just tell you up front. But I mean, you buy it from me, I will sign the book here in the front. I do a little sketch and a signature there. And I usually throw in, there's a perfect example. And I try to use a different color for everybody. Pink, green, blue, whatever. And I always toss in some stickers and a button or two. There we go. See, it's got to for that anniversary button. So yeah, those are the two options to pick up the book.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And just like James Bond movies, at the end of every book, I do announce the next book. So the end of Casa de Diablo, El Muerto will return in The Man from Mictlan. I've always liked those on the Bond films where we already know what's coming up next.
Nice.
Well,
I like that too.
It's also the Buckaroo Banzai thing was stole that also, which is like, because he will return in the versus the World Crime League, which
makes you want to come back.
Story.
Makes you want to come back, yeah. Really quick.
Well, Javier Hernandez.
I have the one quick plug. So I want to be launching this crowdfunder in a couple of weeks. Viva El Muerto. the Aztec Zombie Anthology. So over the last, this is just a little thing that says not for sale because it's a proof copy. Over the last 25 years, I've done a ton of short stories with El Muerto. Things you guys haven't seen, a lot of people haven't seen, or they don't remember. Autobio stories. There is actually an El Muerto and Man Swamp story. That you brought up Man Swamp earlier.
Nice.
And then there's the story that there's a mini comic that came with the El Muerto DVD back in 2007. That's reprinted in here.
Wow.
In 2008, El Muerto had a guest appearance in the Baldo newspaper strip, the nationally syndicated newspaper strip that my friends do. So that's printed in here somewhere. Yeah, El Muerto in newspaper strip format.
Holy cow,
Nice.
color too.
Yeah. There's some color stories in here. There's black and white stories. So I just went to the archives. There's a mini comic, 20. So there's like 15 stories in here. Plus it's got a great pinup section in the back.
About 130 pages.
It's about 100. Let's see. I don't have the page numbers in here because I'm adding to it. But it'll be about 10, 20 pages. So that'll be launching. You guys will see it on my Instagram. That'll be launching in about 2 weeks.
Awesome.
All right, cool. We'll be looking forward to that.
Sure. Thanks, guys. It's always great talking, talking comics, especially after mine.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciated it. It's great talking to you again. Our next episode should be in 2 weeks on the 27th. So all our viewers check back in and join us. We'll be talking about some of our favorite comics. And of course, you know where to find us on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you all again very soon.
Yes. See you later. All right. There we go.